guys, this is Kayla.
And this is Becky, and we're with a couple of these read.
Yes, and we also drink wine. What is our weekly wine, Becky?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we had Gallivant's Bubbly Rosé. Now we're having just the rosé, and there's nothing just about it. I haven't had rosé in a while, and we had a sale going on, and I ordered every rosé that the company has, so I want rosé. It reminds me of springtime, and we're right around the corner from springtime.
Well, that groundhog said we're in springtime, and I don't believe him.
Oh, that's exactly what I wanted. Is that not lovely?
That is so good. It's sweet, but not too sweet. Pear or apple?
Neither.
Really?
Yeah. Plum.
Plum.
It has strawberry, watermelon, red cherry, a little bit of the plum. Tastes kind of like a fruit salad in liquid form, so to speak.
That's why I was like, every fruit salad I've ever had has
pear apple, but not this one. But it pairs well with, of course, seafood, anything like that. I just think of a cheese tray that would go great with it. Some little crackers on the side or something. So I really wanted rosé, and Gallivant is just one of our best wineries. I love it, and I love that Gallivant is like, you choose the way you go through life. You can meander slowly or whatever, or just one foot in front of the other, or you can gallivant joyfully through life. You pick it and what you want to do. And so this right here, I don't necessarily want to run, but I would like to sit down and enjoy a wonderful glass of rosé.
Yes. Now, since with our weekly wine, we always do a book review, we're going to talk about one that you've been seeing a lot on this blog, if you follow us, and that is Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. And I finally finished it. Well, I finished it a couple of weeks ago. You guys remember, I loved this book.
You have so many little tabs in here.
I have so many tabs. There are quotes on my Instagram. Like, I love this book so much. It was pitched as Where the Crawdads Sing meets Twilight meets Thelma and Louise, and I didn't think, I was like, that sounds ridiculous. And then I read it, and I was like, this actually is awesome.
It is.
Because it has that deep, moving writing.
Yes.
From like Where the Crawdads Sing.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
Like, just so beautifully written. I feel like every other line was quotable. I ran out of tabs. My little bookmarker of tabs is empty. So Ashley Winstead, you owe me book tabs. But so good, so quotable. But then it's also got this beautiful, beautiful love story. And if you haven't been participating in our book club and seeing what I've been saying every week, I'm going to try not to repeat myself too much, but feel free to go back and look at some of those. So this is the story of murder. Lots of murder on this blog.
Yeah. From unsuspecting folks that you wouldn't think would do the murder.
Yes. So you've got Ruth, who is,
bless her heart,
the main character. And yes, bless her heart, she lives in this small Louisiana town where her dad is like the worst version of Southern preacher you can find.
Yeah.
And you see this a lot of times. We see it through history at a much larger scale, where someone will use religion or faith or belief. Hitler did this.
Oh yeah, big time.
He used even the Christian faith to twist people's minds.
Yes.
Just taking verses out of context, and all it was a power grab. So you see this on a literal small town scale. Ruth's dad is a power-hungry maniac, and you find out more and more in the book that, yes, that is the best definition of him. The further along you get, the more you realize that. Because he's this man who gets up and he's a fire and brimstone preacher, and he'll run people out of town because he thinks they do witchcraft, and then come to find out he's the one guilty of bringing crime and corruption into their town. Mm-hmm. And he covers up a lot of the sins or crimes of his like major church donors. And their crimes are horrible. There's some that, should come with a trigger warning. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but, one of the characters abuses his teen daughter and wife. And when that wife and teen daughter go to the preacher and they're like, please help us get away from him, he literally looks at them and looks at the wife and says, I'm not going to tell your husband about this, but a wife should be her husband's lieutenant. And sends her home. Despite the fact that this man has come very close to killing both of them with his abuse. And it's that kind of person who raises Ruth, who is intelligent.
Yes.
She's quiet and she's scared of everything because, of course, she is with a father like that.
She fears life in general.
She fears life in general. But she's such an intriguing character because despite being raised by such a horrible, power-hungry madman, she doesn't stop loving people.
Right.
And she doesn't stop seeking love and giving love. And she comes in contact with the other town outcast named Everett. And he's this beautiful, dreamy boy, but nobody sees that. All they see is that he shows up to school with bruises because he's a bad boy and he's always getting into fights.
At the local bar.
At the local bar as a teenager. Yeah. Which kind of, I guess, small town logic. He's bad for doing that, but shouldn't you be shutting down the bar for letting a teenager show up?
And shouldn't you find out why he's showing up at the bar? Like, it's his abusive, drunk dad that's,
Yeah. And it's just these two town outcasts that the small town, instead of taking care of them and nurturing them, really turned against them and nobody offered them help and they have to find out a way on their own.
Right.
And they do find a way, which is not highly recommended.
No, we definitely do not recommend this.
We don't recommend the way they find to cope, but the author does a fantastic job of like creating these characters who you can empathize with so easily. That when the twist comes and, I want this review to be spoiler free, but when the twist comes and you find out who's committing murders, you're kind of like, oh no, that checks out. That's fine.
Because it's also like, following the law and then justice and, being law abiding and having justice at the same time. And, sometimes it's, the law does not always gain justice.
Yeah, And that's part of it, the struggle with how do people who are outside the law, who the law is not helping, find that justice? Like when the people in charge who are the justice of the town are the most corrupt.
Right.
And I love how she's able to do this on a small scale because I think this is stuff we see in like big political thrillers and things like that. It's those kind of themes. But she's taken a microscope and set it in this small Louisiana town with these two young people growing up. And by the end, I think they're both in their early 30s, or close to their 30s.
Yeah.
But you've seen them grow up and your heart just goes out to them in such a way. And one line that I may have already shared. So Ruth's mom, you find out, isn't really complicit in all her husband's wrongdoing. She's actually ignorant of them. But when she does find out, she does nothing to stop.
She goes along with it.
She goes along with it because she's her husband's lieutenant, right?
Yeah.
There's a point where she's questioning her daughter's friendship with Everett and like, why are you hanging out with this outcast? Like, me and your father lead this town and you could just lead it with us. And Ruth, what she's thinking and not saying to her mother, because this is a lot of what she does, is if I could have been honest with my mother, I would have said, we loved like this with all-consuming passion because our hearts had awakened to the truth of what we wanted for ourselves. The awakening itself was a miracle for those of us who had no map for love, who'd never once felt an emotion directed at ourselves as strong as the ones we gave to others. So, and I feel like that is the definition of her and Everett.
Yeah.
Is that there are these two loving characters who've never been loved.
Right.
And have instead been rejected and abused.
Yes.
And it is just such a beautifully intricate story. The ending is still one of those that, like, you're going to think about. You're going to think about it for the next few weeks, because you don't really 100% know what happens. I know what I hope happened. But it's so beautifully done. It's such an amazing read that's going to stay with you for a long time. So easy 5 stars. We will be announcing later this week what our next read along will be. So please check that out. And tomorrow we are putting up our interview with Toby Carter, who wrote The Bottom Line. I reviewed it last week. Such an amazing read. Beautiful romance story. So please tune in for our interview with her tomorrow and pick up her book. And pick up this book. As always, the link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.